That's morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell, I am not John Henry. I'm Mayor Dan Carter. I'm sitting in for our chairman that is taking some time, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to do this. I'm going to ask for everybody's patience. We've got a busy agenda, and in some circumstances, some complexities to it. So I ask for your patience throughout this process. Just to give you a heads up, there will be a timer that will be shown on your screen if you request to speak. It's a 5-minute limit, and you will be held to that. So just to let you know that that will appear on your screen. The region of Durham exists on the lands that the Mississauga, Sagaga, Anishinaabe inhabited for thousands of years prior to the European colonization. These lands are the traditional and treaty territories of the nations covered under the Williams Treaty, including the Mississaugas, Scugog Island First Nation, Aldervale First Nation, Hiawatha First Nation, Curve Lake First Nation, the Chippewa nations of Georgina Island, and Beausoleil and Rama. We honor and recognize and respect the Indigenous people as the right holders and stewards of these lands and waters on which we have the privilege to live. In our efforts towards reconciliation, we continue to build and strengthen our relationship with our First Nations, as well as the large Métis communities and growing Inuit communities here in Durham Region. We commit to learning from our Indigenous values and knowledge, building opportunities for collaboration, and recognize that we are all connected. We thank you for the opportunity to be able to read this acknowledgement. On November 22nd, the 7th Annual Customer Service Professional Network Women in Leadership Summit, 2 of our outstanding leaders in our organization were recognized with these awards for their their positive impact on inclusion practices that advance the customer service experience. Durham Region's Chief Administrative Officer, Elaine Baxter-Tahar, was honored as a leader in change management. This award recognizes those who have a clear vision for change and engage employees to work collaboratively and inclusively throughout their leadership, coaching, and guidance. Janet Nolan, Assistant Supervisor of My Durham 311, was honored as a leader in diversity and inclusion. This award recognizes the passionate inclusion and welcoming leader whose efforts to promote and raise awareness about diversity and inclusion have had a positive impact within their organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us show our appreciation to both Elaine and Janet. Our second announcement is that the Region of Durham Adult Protective Services team was recently recognized by the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association with a local Municipal Champions Award. This award and recognition program recognizes individuals and organizations for their commitment to plan, manage, and deliver quality human services in Ontario. Durham Region's Adult Protective Services team provides case management and advocate for more than 300 adults with developmental disabilities living in the community. The Region of Durham received an award for innovative partnership and housing stability. This award recognizes Adult Protective Services for their innovative approach to integrate Ontario Works, OW, housing services, and other social service programs into their case management process. This new series model was a result in enhancing access to the appropriate services and supports for individuals with developmental disabilities. Please join me in recognizing the team for their outstanding contribution to our community and congratulate all those that participated. Mr. Clerk, could you do a roll call, please, sir? And good morning, by the way.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Electronic roll call is starting now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Declarations of pecuniary interests that need to be noted at this time. Seeing none, as we go through the agenda, once again, if you see something that you have a conflict in, please let me know, and we'll take that under consideration. Councilor Mary Pietri, will you move the minutes of the Regional Council meeting October 25th, 2023? Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Lee. Any in opposition? Seeing none, that passes. Councilor Mary Pietri on the Committee of the Whole meeting November 15th, 2023. You'll move it. Councilor Lee, you'll second it. Any opposition? Those minutes have moved. Thank you very much. There are no presentations. My understanding is that we have 9 delegations that are being requested. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, we did receive 9 delegation requests in respect of addendum item number 10.2. In order to hear those delegations today, a suspension of the rules would be required.
So I need a motion to suspend the rules to be able to be heard. Moved by Councilor Shahid, second by Mayor Roy. In regards to suspending the rules, it needs 2/3. All those in favor, can I see your hands, please? Recorded vote, Mr. Clerk, please. Thank you. Recorded vote has been called by Councilor Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on rule suspension to allow delegations on item 10.2 is starting now.
My understanding is that passes. 2/3 has passed to be able to hear the delegations. We have 9 delegations. Just to let you know, the delegations will be presenting on behalf of the MOU that has been discussed at Whitby Council on Monday. The delegations will be held to 5 minutes. 5 minutes in total. There'll be a time clock that'll be up there. Members of council, questions to the delegation must be in regards to the MOU. Nothing outside of that scope. If the delegations speak outside of the MOU, I will interrupt and ask you to go back on track once again. So I'm going to ask everybody for their patience and also respect the time limits as we've got a busy agenda. Mr. Clerk, our first individual is? Sandy Hodder. Is Sandy Hodder here? Fair enough. I'll come back to you. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair. Vanessa Snape. Vanessa Snape. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello. So you guys passed this thing against all of our wills, basically. Anybody who lives close by does not want this. It's not safe. Okay? So we want to know how dated the best practices are. Elaine, are they 20 years old? Are they?
So this is your chance to have a delegation. This is not
Yes.
not to point
These are questions. You guys won't
These are not
answer our questions.
It's speak
All
to
right,
the
so
MOU and please.
What I'm saying is these best practices are probably over 20 years old. They do not address the root cause of homelessness currently like they are today, like the opioid crisis. This opioid crisis is what's causing the public safety crisis when somebody is really high on crack or something
Vanessa,
like
I'm
that.
going to stop you there. The
They're
understanding about your delegation today is in regards to what's in front of us, which
That's
is the
exactly it.
which is
This
the
shelter
MOU.
is going to
I'm gonna
allow
ask you to
the public
speak
safety
to the
crisis.
MOU, to
That's
the
what I'm
MOU.
speaking about. All right. So having this shelter there, where it's going to be, is going to cause massive issues for the public, for us living, especially right next door. We spoke with people in Timmins. This is just some evidence from Timmins. It's not me, somebody else said, curious. I've seen it mentioned a few times. Homes were abandoned near living space. Is it true? Were homes left? Who would want to live in zombie land? Not me. People are sick and tired of having zombies
Vanessa,
steal their
Vanessa, I'm
stuff.
gonna
This
stop
is
you again.
evidence. This is evidence.
I'm going to ask you to speak to the MOU. If the MOU, you want to speak about security, you want to talk about what
This is what I'm telling you. I'm showing you evidence that you've done nothing to protect the
but
people.
not-
We are very upset. We feel
Vanessa?
betrayed by all of you.
Okay,
We feel
Vanessa?
betrayed. We
Vanessa,
feel that we're
I'm
being
going
left
to-
behind. You're not
Vanessa,
keeping your
please.
oath.
Vanessa, please speak to the MOU.
I have nothing to say good about it. I'm saying we only need to fill the space with 45 because everybody else has less than 45 and it's chaos, pandemonium everywhere. So how dare you fill it with any more than 45? There's no moral. here. There's no logic. There's no forethought. Okay? So this is the things that we need from you. We need you to be mindful of us, of our safety.
Thank you. Questions to the delegation? Councillor Nicholson, can you put in your request, please? Councillor Nicholson, again, I'm going to ask you if you would speak to the MOU or the delegation in regards to the MOU. Good morning, sir.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, Acting Chair. Just one question. Are you in favor of the region passing the MOU or not?
I am not happy with this agreement.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
No, you may not. Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much for your delegation.
All
We
right,
greatly
thanks for that.
appreciate it. We hope you have a good day. Mr. Chair. Wendy Susanto? Is that you? Wendy Susanto? Please come forward. Wendy, I'm just gonna remind you, your delegation today is to the MOU.
Okay.
Nothing outside that scope. You speak to the MOU that you, I presume, are aware of that was passed in Whitby on Monday. So your delegation should speak to the MOU and not anything outside of that. And you've got 5 minutes. Are you comfortable with that?
What does MOU mean?
The Memorandum of Understanding.
Okay. So I guess anything I say, just the agreement? Okay.
Yes?
Yep.
Thank you. Please proceed.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I just want to clarify about the agreement in the section 35, where it talks about the additional affordable and supportive housing. We need to know the total number of people who will eventually live in the building, including any future phases. It doesn't mention section 7 or section 8, which both states there shouldn't be more than 45 low-bear shelter spaces at the Dundas shelter, the Dundas Street shelter, or any additional shelter spaces beyond that. We got to get all these numbers straight. We also need a full breakdown of costs for running the shelter and for handling its impact over at least for the next 2 years. Councillor Brian Nicholson raised a really good point about this. He mentioned we spent a ton of money on this facility, but where's the breakdown on how much the region plans to spend on actually running it? At the very least, we need the numbers for operation funds, security costs, and cleanup expenses. In the attachment D talks about map coverage, but it's only covering the area up to a kilometer north and south. We need that same coverage extended to the east and west of 1635 and extend north and south up to 2 kilometers. Every surrounding area should get the same attention and protections. It's about fairness and making sure everyone's safety is taken seriously. The community's voice echoes loud and clear on October 30, yet 99% of our requests remain unaddressed in the final agreement. At the very least, let's ensure these concerns are included in the agreement. It's all about fairness, accountability, and ensuring the safety and well-being of our community. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you for your delegation. Questions to the delegate? Seeing none, thank you very much for your, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Nicholson?
Similar question. Are you in favor of the region passing the MOU as currently written?
To be honest, I don't. There's a lot of resident concerns that is not included in this agreement, and I don't feel comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Leahy, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Mayor Carter. Thank you, Wendy, through you. Thank you, Wendy, for coming out this evening. My question is, what would you like to see different in the agreement that would give you more faith in the shelter coming to community? Is it some of the top issues that came up the other night were around security or other different concerns? Is there anything you would like to see adjusted in the agreement that would give you more confidence?
Top priority will be the security, but at the same time, it has to expand further than what it is on the map right now. Just for the fairness for everybody, we have parks that just right outside the boundary of the map coverage, and that is not included in the coverage. But I think we should look at the map broader than what it's on the agreement right now. Look at the parks just outside the coverage, and it's if we can include those, I'll be a bit comfortable.
Okay.
And
No.
also the cost breakdown, I like to see that for the long-term plan, not just for a year or half a year. I like to see minimum 2 years plan.
Okay. No, you
It's fair for the taxpayers, right?
Okay, no, you mentioned the cost piece. So right now it's it's a sharing of $500,000. I know what the town said it was 2.5. So you would like to see more of that covered by the region? Is that a fair?
I like personally, I like to see the region covers everything.
Okay.
Because this is regional project, not town of Whitby. Just to be fair, I think that's reasonable. Just like any businesses, if you try to open a new project and it's based on your own initiative, then you should be covering that cost. Not other company. This should be doing that. But
No,
yeah,
that makes
that's
sense.
my-
No, that makes sense. I appreciate that, and
Okay.
thank you for coming out. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Mayor Carter.
Thank you very much, Counselor, and good morning. Counselor Yamada?
Good morning, Mayor.
To the MOU, please.
Thank you, Wendy, for coming in and delegating. So from my understanding, a lot of the concerns from the existing residents is pertaining to the security. Can you sort of speak a little bit more of what specifically to security you would like to see in this? And again, remind me, you live on Long Drive,
Yes.
which is outside of the
Just outside
area.
the
And so you would
boundary,
like to see that sort of included within that?
Yes. Longwood Park, which is on Long Drive, is just right outside that boundary in the map. And the fair list, I like to see that included in the agreement, in the map coverage agreement. But also there are other parks just outside of that map coverage in the agreement. But I like to see those parks get the same coverage.
Good. Counselor?
So again, when we talk about security in this MOU, and it speaks to 24-hour per day, 7-day-a-week security, did anyone sort of clarify what kind of security that was going to be offered to the residents?
Other than mobile security, which is in the agreement, I don't see the detailed breakdown on how they're gonna operate, and mainly the costs to operate this. It can be very expensive. So I like to see the cost breakdown to run the security, so that we can feel better knowing that there is the funds there to protect the community. And so I like to see that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Counselor Yamada, and good morning, by the way. Counselor Shahid, good morning.
Thank you,
To the
Chair
MOU,
Carter.
please.
Yes, it will be. Oh, thank you so much. I ask better questions when I'm standing. Wendy, I really appreciate you coming out today again. Very
Could you bring your
quickly.
microphone closer, please? Thank you very
Yes.
much. Thank
The reason I'm standing up and asking you a question is on proximity, when you had talked about the map coverage. And I know that question has covered by one of the counselor. My pointed question here is the fact that very simply, you'd like that proximity to be widened, so more homes that may be affected on it, you'd like that expanded, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, mainly focusing on the parks beside the residents housing area, of course. But there are a lot of parks just right outside that map coverage that is not included.
We have an entire hydro corridor, yes. So
Right.
the next question is, the proximity is one thing. The mobile security, you'd like to see more cost covered by the region, correct?
Yes. To be honest, the costs mentioned in the agreement, I don't believe it's enough. So I don't feel comfortable with that.
So you would want more years commitment.
Right. Yeah.
And
Long-term plan, of course.
these two things, if they were approved of it today, you'd feel comfortable.
Personally, I don't. Again, 99% of the requests that was voiced by the residents on the October 30th is not included in the agreement. So I don't feel comfortable even with those two added in the final agreement.
My final question through you, Chair, is that you're willing to work, but you'd like to see more to it so you could agree to everything, correct?
Oh, we've been doing that for the past couple meetings, and I don't see it went anywhere. So
All right, thank you, fair enough. Really appreciate it. I rest, Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and good morning. That's all our speakers. Thank you very much, Wendy, for your delegation. We wish you the best of the day. Thank you
okay,
once
thank
again.
you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Russell Leffler. Russell Leffler. Russell Leffler. Mr. Clerk, just note that Mr. Leffler is not with us this morning. Mr. Wayne Huska. No. Mr. Huska, please come forward.
Good morning, all.
Morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. Once again, 5 minutes is your time window, and we're asking you to speak to the MOU. We wish you good morning.
Yes, good morning. Okay, I live on Greenfield. I'm actually the house right next door to the property. The fence is being put up against my house, technically, 6 feet away from my house. So this has really affected me. So I have a lot of problems with this agreement, especially when it comes to numbers in recitals under paragraph F. It says that if any shelter, if a shelter space exists and is available, then a person will not be left unsheltered no matter what it says in here, is what I take out of it. So basically, it's saying if there's space, doesn't say anything about beds, just space, you will use it. And you have bought a large enough facility to fill it with a couple hundred people. And I don't see why you're not going to, because through all the other meetings, that's all I've heard is you will use that space to the limit. And so that's going to bring a heavier inflow of people in the neighborhood, hanging out behind that nice wind barrier, that windbreak that is being put up along the street where there's a nice boulevard they can tent on. And that fence is only being put up because you guys are, as a result of you acting on us being worried about safety. We didn't ask for the fence. We didn't ask for the shelter either. we didn't know anything about it. And we know why. But also, the costs in this one section, basically it says that you will be working with all of Durham Region to provide shelter spaces. And you have a large one, so I take it that everyone from all of Durham Region, and it has been said in other meetings with the social services, that they will also do areas outside of Durham Region for overflow if they need it or request it. So basically, in my mind, everybody is gonna be dumped down here into this neighborhood, into the building, and Whitby has to pay 50% for cleaning up the rest of the area, your Durham Region. That just don't seem right, because my taxes are gonna go up, and they're probably gonna go up even more because of the costs. And I'm basically being paid for having my property completely devalued. Because it has been already, because I've had my house up for sale for a month now. I've been looking to move earlier, before this all came down. Now I can't, I've had it up, I've had, I left my notes up there. I've had 39, almost 40, actually 40 viewings.
I'm gonna ask you to
Okay,
get
I'm
back
just
onto the
saying
MOU.
as to, because you guys kept reassuring us that there'll be no problems, it's not gonna affect us in any way. But I've had 40 viewings, not one single offer, not even a lowball offer, and I've had half of those people just basically walk away from the door or say, no, we're not gonna buy this because of that. So that is a large, that's part of it. You guys, in your fairness, you say you're gonna be fair, but you strictly, I don't feel, are being very fair to us. And you basically lost our trust just by the way you did this, the way you purchased the property. So how can I trust anything that you guys say? Because basically, F just overrules everything in here. So, like, you guys are speaking with forked tongues here, saying one thing and saying another thing, and then which one's the truth? I don't know. So I'm sorry, I am completely against this agreement. I'm completely against the way you guys, don't call us NIMBYs, because we're fighting this. We're fighting this to protect our livelihoods, our future.
Thank you, Wayne. Wayne, your
Okay.
time has expired. Just
Yeah.
hold on, we have some speakers for you. We have Councilor Yamada. Councilor Yamada, good morning once again.
Good
Questions
morning.
to the MOU, please.
So thank you, Mr. Huska, for coming in this morning. So for you, you mentioned section F in the recitals. You would like to see that struck.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it just throws this piece of paper in the garbage, in my mind. Because that's the way I read it. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like perfect, clear English to me that basically, no matter what is written in here, they're gonna overrule it.
Okay,
Because-
I'll bring that question when the issue comes to the table. So understanding you're right next door to this shelter,
Yes.
you indicated that there was, that you have had difficulty selling your house. Do you think that in this MOU, that there should be something that speaks to the hardship of residents who have now had their home devalued? Because
Yes.
at that October 3rd meeting, the CAO did indicate that it would be negligible at best, but from looking at the MLS listings in the area, homes that have been on the market for now a long period of time due to the fact that there's a low barrier homeless shelter going in, I would argue isn't negligible.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't.
I would argue it isn't a
Oh.
minimal impact.
Yes, it's a huge impact. It's the only houses I've had sold on the street are on the other side, and the one did not disclose anything about the shelter. But they can see it. Through the rest of the street, anybody looking at the house can see it. And they, as soon as they see that, boom, they're on Google, they're on whatever, they're questioning. They don't even care if it's a shelter. They don't even think about that. It's one person said that low rental beside the house because it just looks like just a thought. But most have said, no, I'm not buying near a shelter.
And so within this MOU, my next question, Mr. Mayor, is that you would like to see sort of a full plan of what the rest of the building is going to look like? The possibility of the phase 2?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because this, basically the wording of this is like phases. I'm seeing, well, phase 1 basically is winter. So, you know, they're gonna have to fill it to keep the people out of the cold. Phase 2 will be in the summer when there won't be so many people in there, and well, we could, you know, do something in there, put an office in there, but come winter, they're gonna fill it again. That's what I feel. So there's no clear anything about, it's all basically, I'm going by what I've heard through all the meetings and everything, and from the social services and all that. And what I see is basically they're gonna fill it if they can.
Counselor?
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Counselor Nicholson, good morning, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question. You indicated that you don't trust the region, which I understand. In the document, it refers to a final and binding agreement. Is it your understanding that this is final and binding, or is it subject to future change?
From the way things seem to be going, I think this is a final,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Would it surprise you that any future council in the region next term could terminate this agreement simply by a vote?
I'm sorry?
Are you aware that any future council at Durham Region could terminate this agreement unilaterally with the simple vote of the regional council?
No, not really.
I just want to make sure that you're aware of that one point. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Counselor Nicholson. I'm going to move on to Counselor Leahy. Counselor Leahy, good morning once again. To the MOU, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Carter. Thank you, Mr. Husker, for coming out here this evening. My first question is, you spoke to costs. So just for clarity, you're saying you think the region should be bearing all the costs that are going to be added to the ancillary impact to the neighborhood?
Either all, or it should be divided. If Whitby's an eighth of it, but this is being dumped on Whitby. So, and in my mind, this is just basically, it's just being dumped here, and basically.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
They should, but basically, you know what, they should pay for everything. Yes.
Yeah, no, and that was my question. So we'll ask for
sorry.
some amendments.
No, you know what? They should pay for everything because Whitby didn't ask for this.
No, and that's fine. So I appreciate, and I'll just interpret that as that we'll ask for more coverage by the region. So I appreciate that. Another part was that, and some of your concerns around what's going to come there and the unknown and what's moving forward. Would you think there's value in understanding what's going to be in the complete 70,000 square feet of the building, like to understand the upper limit of the number of people that are going to be living and working there? Is that something you would like to see?
Yeah, I mean, 45 is a huge amount from even any other place. So I wouldn't want to see any more than that. And
yeah, no, that's fine. So
know.
yes is
Yeah,
also, yes is fine. And then the other piece was that concerns around security and impact to the neighborhood. Is there anything you would like to see differently around that would give you more confidence that it would be a successful implementation for a shelter?
well, yeah, okay. Police presence would be good. Security, okay, they'll call. And what do we have? We have, all we can do is call the police, which they've response time is, you know,
Mr. Oskar,
been
I'm going
Yeah,
to
no, that's
stop
fine.
you there just for a
Anyways.
minute. Counselor, just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a place of the People's Chamber. We ask that you respect those that are delegating and those that are answering the questions. And we ask that you keep your comments as to yourself. We give everybody an opportunity to properly delegate, but we're just asking, please respect the rules of this chamber. Thank you. Councillor Lee, please proceed.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor Carter. So again, just appreciate, there's just a couple things we're going to ask to tweak to the agreement. So you've answered the three that I'm looking at. So I appreciate you coming out here this evening.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. Councillor Shahid, good morning once again. You have the floor to the MOU, please.
Morning. I just have one quick question. Most of my questions been answered. Thank you so much, Chair, and good morning again. Mr. Haska, you had mentioned twice, if I recall, overruled a particular clause. Can you please highlight that for me? Which clause overrules the whole agreement?
F under recitals.
Okay. And
In
what
my
would you
mind,
like?
that's what I
Sorry.
read. That's what I read.
And what would you like? What kind of an amendment would you like in it?
Well, that should be
Scratch
stricken
it.
from it. Strike that out of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. That'll be all, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you very much for your delegation. I wish you the best of the day and thank you for your delegation this morning. Sandy Hodder.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Hodder. Again to the MOU.
Yeah.
And when you're comfortable, please proceed.
Well, I'm just starting off by saying that my heart right now is not here. It's with my girlfriend in the palliative care unit at Oshawa General who's dying of cancer. I can't be there, but I'm here because this is an important issue for me. And but I'm thinking of Wendy right now. But yeah, okay, I'll start. This agreement, I stayed up hours, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, comparing them. It's not much different than what the first one that was presented. I didn't have comments ready because I was feeling so worried about my girlfriend, but anyways, I'll get right to the point. In the map, which is a joke, I want the following residential streets and parklands located west of Thixon Road and south of Nickel to the Hydro right-of-way. They have to be included in Attachment D, map to the agreement. It has to include Long Drive, Horseshoe Drive, Corral Court, Wood Drive, Greenview Court, Upland Drive, Longwood Park, and Nickel Park. I've got maps here, but I've emailed my delegations, emailed 2 presentations to delegations this morning. I want the most southerly boundary of the map should have been the north side of Burn Street, east from Thixon Road to Kendallwood, not Bellwood Avenue, from Thixon Road to Kendallwood, so as to include Dorvis Drive, Sodden Drive, Eberly Court, and Fairview Meadow Place. Who in the region even measured this area for this map? And then I attached the pictures of the different streets that have to be in here. We live on Long Drive. We've got that hydro right-of-way. Longwood Park is the one where the homeless guy came out after my granddaughter on her walk to school on October the 4th. This is before this thing even started. My nightmare, what I told on September 25th, was the safety of my grandchildren, Leah, who started grade 9 at Anderson. My biggest fear was her walking through that park as a shortcut to Anderson because she's not bused. And the fear came true on October 4th. But anyways, back to the agreement. That poor child has been traumatized by what happened with that man, that I get up every morning now and I drive her to school. She'll never walk through that park again. My 8-year-old granddaughter can't even use that park without mom going, or me. Can't even go down to the creek anymore to look for fish alone because of what's going to be down in the woods. And I've gone down there with sticks, going down there looking for those guys that went after her. Anyways, back to the agreement that I didn't have much time to go over it, but I highlighted it. Item C. This is all about the money that you guys are getting from the provincial and the feds for funding. That's all it's about. That's why they're popping up everywhere. You're doing it for the money. Temporary housing for certain, I didn't know what transitional housing meant until I looked it up. There's no limits on how many people you say that are going to be in here for transitional housing. The 45 cap on the low barrier shelter, what happens to number 46 who comes in on a cold night? What are you going to do with him? Are you going to send him out onto Greenfield and set fire to that 10-foot barrier fence to keep warm? That's not addressed. I want to know what you're going to do for those people. What's happening what happened to the contaminated soil issue? I asked to speak to items 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4 that were part of the October 25th minutes of the meeting. That was my delegation as well as to another issue that Councillor Leahy brought up as to removing the low barrier aspect. In my delegation, I asked to speak to all of them because I was led to believe that this was going to be dealt with in camera, according to this letter that we got. Anyway, since it's here, I don't need to speak to those others, although I'd like the answers to them. I've got it all. Yeah, let's see. Okay, item G for one. I've highlighted that one. Durham Region and Whitby have received and acknowledged the concerns raised by members of the local community and intend to address those concerns to the fullest extent possible using the resources available. No additional resources? That's bullshit.
So, Ms. Hodder. your
I'm
time-
sorry. Okay,
Ms.
I'm
Hodder-
sorry. I
Ms. Hodder-
apologize.
Ms. Hodder, your time has expired. So I thank you for your delegation. We'll go to members of council for their questions in regards to your MOU and your delegation. Councillor Leahy, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. So thank you again for coming out here, Sandy. Appreciate your time. I guess just again, speaking to the agreement, things that you'd like to see done differently around, like, so concerns around security, would you like to see that strengthened in some way,
Yes.
shape, or form?
Yes.
Okay. On costs, would you like to see the cost fully paid for by the region?
Never, fully paid, 100%, 150% by the region.
Okay, and one of the other pieces that you mentioned for was that not knowing what's going to be in the rest of the region. Would you like to see what's going to be beyond the 45-bed low barrier shelter? Like, how many people are going to be living and working in this building?
Yes.
Okay, no, we'll see if we can ask for those. So I appreciate you coming out this evening.
I need the map extended to include the people west of Dixon, that clump of residences that we back onto the Hydro right-of-way, and we're in Longwood Park where there's homeless encampments, and Nickel Park, and those little houses up from the walkway where my granddaughter was approached trying to get to her girlfriend's house. And it should not be Bellwoods, it should be Burns, and including those few houses that are there. They're the ones that are going to be affected, and I need those changes in that map.
Okay, yeah, and that's something we can ask for as well. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Councillor Leahy. Councillor Shahid, once again to the MOU, please.
Good morning. Thank you. Very quickly. Oh, okay. All right. She's gone. I just have a question.
Ms. Hodder, there was a question for you from Councillor Shahid. Are you comfortable answering the question?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Councillor, please proceed.
Sandy, I'm sorry about your friend. Very quickly, I know that Councillor Leahy has clarified it somewhat form.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Councillor Leahy had clarified that I need further clarification to the bottom of Thixon up to Burns is what your coverage you would like, correct?
Exactly what I read. I
Yes.
want west of Thixon. I want from Nickel Avenue down to the Hydro right-of-way west of Thixon to include that clump. I want all those homes up by Nickel Park, which is from Wood Street along
I get
Nickel,
it. I know
those
what it
ones,
is. Yeah.
and the southern ones on the east side. Burns should be the boundary, not Bellwood.
Perfect. I get that. I will be talking about
Over
that.
to Kendallwood.
The second question is on the cost. Very clearly, the region should be bearing it.
Yes, 100%.
That'll be all. That's very clear.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Ms. Hodder, thank you very much for your delegation today. I wish you the best of the day. Mr. Tom Kelly? Mr. Tom Kelly? Mr. Tom Kelly? Mr. Clerk, just note that Mr. Kelly is not in attendance. Vicky Rodden? Vicky Rodden? Vicky Rodden? Mr. Clerk, please note that that individual is not in attendance. Denise Boudreau? Morning, Ms. Boudreau. Thank you for joining us this morning. You're going to be speaking to the MOU, and you have 5 minutes for your delegation. Thank you and good morning.
Under the community engagement and improvements, item 25C, some of the language to be changed in such a way Durham Region will assume the cost of any incremental services for the general area identified in attachment D, full stop. Attachment C, principles for a code of conduct. The following is a list of responsibilities in point form. So I'm gonna read what this should, I would like to see it look like. Infractions will be addressed through a progressive discipline process that meets the requirements set out in the code of conduct and aligns with the client's services plan, including the use of an exit policy. An exit policy provides relocation to another shelter or alternative housing and prevents discharge into the immediate vicinity of the property. This will include warning meetings, referral options, distancing expectations, or engaging the Durham Regional Police Service if required and appropriate action based on the incident. Durham Region will use strict measures to prevent excluded occupants from remaining directly in the immediate vicinity of the shelter, full stop. And then I would like some added provisions that might sound like this. If Durham Region is informed of an encampment forming within 1.5 kilometers of the Dundas property, immediate and swift action will be taken by the Durham Region to remove and find shelter space for all persons living in such encampment. If Durham Region is informed of an illegal injection site operation, immediate and swift action will be taken by the Durham Region to shut down the operation. So there's two things. Is number one, the cost for these incremental services, I think, should be entirely the Durham Region's responsibility, because this was brought to the community by the Durham Region. And also, as it pertains to the code of conduct, I think there is now a very real possibility that anyone who is involuntarily discharged, or even somebody who voluntarily discharges themselves, will be in the community, and this leads to a possible encampment situation. And I think everyone knows how political this issue can get and be. So I think what I would be looking for at this stage is a commitment from the Durham Region to swiftly act and disperse these encampments before they become unmanageable, because of what this could be an even worse situation. That's basically what my approach would be at this point.
Ms. Boudreau, thank you very much for your delegation today. Questions to the delegate? Councillor Leahy, good morning once again. 5 minutes MOU, please.
Good morning, Mayor Carter. Thank you so much. Thank you, Denise, for coming out this morning. I guess, so the key things you talked about swift action and other different things. Like, what would you like to see us added to the agreement, or just like a commitment from staff that they will deal with those issues as they arise? Like, what would make you feel more comfortable?
Honestly, I've always said this from the start, is oversight of your program providers. So your people who are running the shelter, all the wraparound services, I believe this historically has lacked oversight. It's caused a lot of fallout. It's cost people their lives. So oversight is a big thing that I felt was missing in the agreement. I tried to factor it in, but it was completely dismissed. So oversight, big time. Measurement for success, evaluation metrics. I'm not sure, not sure what is the measurement for success in any of these programs other than we housed 45 people, therefore it's a success. So really oversight I'd be looking for. Plus now we're working together. We're hopefully solutions focused, not problems focused. And that's why I wanted a commitment to disperse any encampment situations, because it becomes really unmanageable or really unmanageable really quickly.
No, okay, no, that's helpful. No, I appreciate that, and thank you for coming out this morning.
Thank you very much, Councillor Leahy. Ms. Boudreau, thank you very much for your delegation today. I wish you the very best of the day. Peter Cohen. Peter Cohen. Peter Cohen. Mr. Clerk, note that Mr. Cohen isn't with us this morning. That's the end of our delegations. Thank you very much for those that did delegations this morning. Thank you for members of council that had questions in regards to the MOU. Mayor Collier, my understanding is you want to bring a motion forward to waive the rules to alter the agenda. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so please, what is your desire?
Chair, I would like to modify the agenda to bring item 10.34 to be dealt with at this time. We have several members of Durham Regional Police here that have very pressing matters as well, and I'm hoping we can accommodate that and get that done. Thank you.
So I need a seconder on it, seconded by Councillor Lee. And we need 2/3 recorded vote, I think. Oh, simple majority. Okay, simple majority. Who's in opposition? Seeing none. Okay, so that item will come forward. I need a motion, Chair Collier, in regards to going to a closed session, please. Oh, sorry. Hold it. There we go.
Make the motion, we move in camera, Chair.
Okay, can I have a seconder? Mayor Barton, thank you. Any opposition? One in opposition. That goes forward. Please be advised that council and committee will now meet in closed session in accordance with section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to consider a proposed or pending acquisition of disposal of land. Those I'm going to ask that will have to leave the chamber are residents, please. We'll be in closed session. Can I have a motion for like a 5-minute recess? Councillor Leahy, seconded by Councillor Marin Pietri, for 5 minutes. Any in opposition? Being none, 5 minutes. We'll be back here at 10:27, 10:28. Mayor Collier, can you press your request, please? Thank you. Yep. So council went into closed session to consider matters. It is permitted to do so under the Municipal Act and as listed on today's council agenda. The following items were considered during the closed session, which was a report number 10.2 in regards to Durham Regional Police. No motions or direction were given at that time. 10.3, the clerk is trying to fool me. 10.3, we went into close at 10:24. We rose and are back in open session at 12:02. Mayor Collier, you have a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. For report 2023 F31 of the Finance Committee, I'd like to move option B for consideration by council, please.
Do you have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Cook. Thank you very much. Recorded vote, I presume, is being requested.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we just came out of closed. Questions in regards to this? We'll have to go back into closed, my understanding. Is that correct? Just depending on the nature of the question. So, Councillor Nichols, I'm going to go to you, but I'm going to ask the clerk to kind of keep me on track. So just be patient. Thank you.
Is that even possible, Mr. Chairman?
We're going to give it a shot. And because I don't have a beard, I guess, you know,
Yeah, well-
that's a slight against me right away.
Some of us have skills others don't have. I'm sure Councillor Brenner would agree.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I just want to speak to the motion. I came here fully expecting to vote no to option B. The information that was gathered in questioning has changed my vote. However, I want to straight one point that kept being raised, that things that keep us up at night, we have to deal with them. I want to remind council that there's a lot of people out there right now who are being kept up at night because they can't get food for their children, and they can't pay their rents, and they can't pay their mortgages, or they've got their kids in their 40s living at home because they can't find a house. So when we do expenditures of this type, we have to always keep in mind the impact that's going to have on the tax rate. And I say this to the police respectfully. You can't have both. You can't have a capital increase and an operation increase in the same year. If we're looking at approving this today, and if it's up to council to decide what it wants to do, then we're going to have to sharpen our pens on what the police budget is going to look like, because we have to pay for this. Now, if someone had come to me and said, I want to put a operational division in Ajax alone to service Ajax, I'd have been wholeheartedly behind it, because that's the position I've taken for the last 2 decades, that Ajax has been underserviced in policing and should have always had a division. But my concern is that if I'm moving staff from this building to another building in Ajax, what's going to happen with this building? And then I'm hearing, well, not only are we going to retrofit the new building, now we're going to retrofit the space they're emptying. And I'd like to know how that's impacting budgets. I mean, we are looking in the face of a 10% tax hike. And rather than sharpening our pencils and making offsetting cuts and setting priorities, we're continuing just to throw money at a problem. I would have preferred, in a perfect world, when this report came forward saying we need to expand the operation to Ajax, a report that also showed we're going to make some operational savings to offset that cost. It's only $2 million annually, if it's debentured. Then surely we can find $2 million in operational costs in the police department to offset that cost. And I look forward to seeing that in the police budget when it comes forward in the new year. Because you can't simply be an add-on mentality. And the region as a council, and I've said this last time we talked about the budget, we can no longer afford an add-on mentality. If we're going to increase priority services, then there has to be some reductions and offsets, because the people of Durham cannot afford the tax increases that are being projected, the user rate increases that are being projected. You know, people can't be asked to sacrifice their meals and their housing to pay ever-increasing tax rates. So all I'm saying is we need a sharper pencil. I will support B, because I've said it at council in Oshawa many times, delay costs us money. If you put it off 2 years, it won't be $9 million, it'll be $14 million plus borrowed money.
Counselor.
So I caution everyone, this is going to have a tax impact. So let's make sure that we don't leave the impression we get this for free, because we don't.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Point of order, Mayor Foster.
We need to be careful what we are saying and how easy it is to tax on.
I agree, sir. Thank you very much for your remarks. With that being said, again, I'm going to ask, be very careful. We've already discussed this issue. You know that option B is on. I'm asking for us to keep that information where it belongs. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. I am going to be supporting option B. The reason why I'm not going to support option A, if it ever came up, was because I think when there's a call for, before we make this decision, to analyze the whole Durham region in terms of facilities and whatever, the expression that comes to mind is paralysis by analysis. We need to make this decision now. And why? The other phrase that comes to mind is sometimes need meets opportunity. And sometimes you have to make a decision that you'd like more, as some people have said, landing time. I don't think we have that, and for the reasons that were clearly given by the chief, CEO and through the question we had today. So I'm looking forward to the vote when it comes for option B. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kerr. Mayor Schumer, once again, please respect the information that was in the confidential and make sure your remarks abide by the open rules, please. Thank you.
And thank you very much. I'll be brief. I will not be supporting the motion as much as the need has been demonstrated, because the need has also been demonstrated that we have a problem throughout the region with these assets, and rushing into decisions of this nature can have just as costly an implication as a delay may be. We have a report on the agenda regarding works on millions of dollars of costs going over budget on various projects. We had a report to council back in the summer about projects going millions of dollars over budget. And I think there's a real problem here, and it's demonstrated by the amount of time. We sat in closed session, and the same thing happened at finance. We were in closed session for an extremely long period of time talking about this. It speaks to the unknowns. It speaks to information we do not thoroughly have, and the implications on our taxpayers. So I cannot support it as much as I would like to. It cries out that we have a region-wide problem to deal with here that I think has to be reviewed in context to this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Schumer. Councillor Wu, once again, please respect the confidentiality. Make sure that we are in public, open public session. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Collier and members of council. Unfortunately, I would like to have spoken in closed session, but I guess through my lack of knowledge how to register to speak, that was my fault. No, the only thing I did want to say, the chief, yes, he mentioned that he's been on the job a short time, but in that time that the Police Services Board chose him and picked this particular person was his enthusiasm to modernize and transform the service. And I think we've seen and heard, and again, moving ahead with the new, if you want to call it, regional, Durham Regional Police Services headquarters out of where we are, because we are a growing service. We've outgrown the space that is allotted to us. I think we are one of the 10th largest police services in Ontario without a standalone headquarters. I will say that I will support option B. I'm sorry, I'm a little under the weather. I've had a major operation, so I'm just trying to voice my support for option B, and certainly for the chief. It's a big move, but again, this is what we call forward together. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wu. You look good, though. So.
Thank you.
Mayor Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the question be put.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Baron Pietri. Any opposition? Seeing none, the question is being put. The motion of B is on the floor. It's been moved in second. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, a recorded vote is being requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on option B starting now.
$25 yes, 3 no. The motion B passes. Thank you, folks. Just to let you know, we will be taking lunch at 1 o'clock. There are some members that have some issues that need to be addressed between 1 and 2, so we said that we would respect that. I was hoping that maybe we could get to our committee reports at this time and see how we can move through that as smoothly as possible. Is everybody comfortable continuing to move forward to 1 o'clock? Yeah? Okay. All right. So Give me a second. So as I look at the agenda, we've got nothing in communications. There's no reports related to delegation presentations. Committee reports, 9.1, Finance and Admin. A mover on that, I guess, is Mayor Ash, seconded by Councilor Mayor Pietri. Oh, I get the yellow sheets. Oh, look at that, eh? Feeling pretty important now, Mayor Ash. Moved by Mayor Ash, seconded by Councilor Leahy, that the recommendations contained in items 1 to 5, inclusive of Report 8 of the Finance and Administration Committee, be adopted. Any polls? Polls, Councilor Nicholson. Just a sec. Can you hit your request? I'm still getting used to it. Oh, just a sec. Did you say number 3?
Number 3, yep.
Thank you. Any other polls? Seeing none. On the remainder, any in opposition? Being none, item 3. Just give me a second. Councilor Nicholson, item 3, the debt strategy update. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Please proceed.
First of all, I appreciate the update, outlining some new thinking and how we approach this. I'm just wondering to our staff, given that the cost of borrowing through debentures is in the 5 and 6% range on average now, and only going up, and our return on investments is so minimal, have we considered, as other municipalities have done, developing an opportunity to borrow from our own reserves, for example, at a midpoint of, say, 3%, so the investment revenues go up by threefold, and the cost of borrowing is cut in half? Oshawa does it through what we call an interfund loan process. The region has rejected that in the past. Is that something we would give more consideration to, given the fact that we have healthier reserves and the cost of borrowing is going so high?
Madam Commissioner, to the question, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, we're looking at a number of strategies to try to maximize our investment returns as well as minimize our debt capacity and our debt, sorry, not our debt capacity, our debt carrying load, because as council knows, we're projecting quite a significant amount over the coming time frame. So the answer to your question is yes, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that while we have lots of high value in our reserve funds, when you see our budget come forward, there is huge draws on them over the next coming years because of the sequence of things that you have seen and heard in the last year. So I have to balance the needs of the cash flow requirements on that reserve fund side. What we have done as well is purchase our own debentures. So when we issue them to market, we purchase them, and that investment return goes back to that. So there are a number of strategies. This report and the investment report that went the month before are exactly to your point of let's modernize what we do. Let's figure out our best strategy as the requests come forward and where we can get, I'll say, the biggest bang for our buck on all avenues.
Councillor?
Well, and I do appreciate that. I was glad it was a yes, that we're looking at it. My biggest concern is that obviously our policy should be to maximize our returns, limit our debt costs, increase our investment costs. For too long in the region, we've done a very good job of making the registered banks rich, and that shouldn't be our mandate. If we can borrow from ourselves at 3%, then we should investigate that. If we continue to borrow at 5, 6, 7, wherever it's going now, we're also tying our cash flow issues because we're eating up money and paying the banks their profit. I can tell you that the Save Oshawa's had this interfund loan program for decades, and it gives us flexibility on cash flow because we can pay back at any time. We're not locked into 20 years. It gives us flexibility in using our reserves adequately to service our needs without harming our overall financial picture. I sincerely think it is time that the region take a long and hard look at the same, especially when we're looking at the numbers that we have in our reserves. In fact, I'd even go further. I'd rather than having a local municipality come to the region and debenture and have to pay back, say, a park development or a recreation development, because we're all facing major costs. I'd love to see a situation where the region could use some of that money and lend it to us, and we'd pay it back as an investment. And it would save us costs at both ends, both in borrowing and in return. And I think it's time that we open the doors and stop feeding the banks.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Any other questions in regards to item 3? Any in opposition of item 3? That item's moved forward. Thank you. Any questions to finance at all? Seeing none, moving on. Where am I? Planning and Economic Development. Planning and Economic Development moved by Councillor Chapman, second by Councillor Pickles. Any polls? Seeing none. Any opposition? Being none, that moves forward. Any questions in regards to this department? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to Works, moved by Mayor Barton, seconded by Councillor Marin Pietri, that recommendations contained in 1 to 9 exclusive of Report 9 of the Works Committee be adopted. Any polls? Seeing no polls. Councillor Schumer. Councillor Schumer, you have a poll?
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm pulling 3 through 8.
Just a minute. So Councillor Schumer, just for my clarification, item 3, additional financing, replacement of existing water mains, Park Road South. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, it'd be 3 through 7, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry?
Actually, it would be number 3 through 7.
3 through 7?
Yeah.
Thank you. Give me a little bit of a break. Number 4, additional financing award in regards to engineering services for upgrade Plant 1 waste gas burner. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Item 5, tender award, additional financing for regional municipality Durham contract, Lord Elgin trunk sanitary sewer rehabilitation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Number 6, lease extension amendment at 1190 Keith Ross Court in Oshawa. Is that correct?
Yes.
And number 7, tender award, additional financing for region Durham contract D 2023-50. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. On the remainder, any opposition? The other items have moved forward. So, item number 3, just hold on a second. Mayor Schumer, we wanted to reset your time, so go ahead. Number 3, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I did bring this up during the Works Committee discussion, but I think it's important to bring it up here at Council as well. Once again, and as been discussed today, we're facing some serious budgetary constraints in the upcoming year and years. And I have to say it is very concerning that we have a number of capital projects in this report alone that are substantially over budget, that we're looking for more funds to cover it. And those funds are either going to come from tax dollars or they're going to come from reserves that may have been set aside for more projects. So I think we've really got to put something in place to be watching these projects. We're going to get more projects put before us at budget. And I think it's imperative that staff and council know exactly what we're getting into. I know that there can be circumstances raising the cost of a project, but we are talking, close to 40%, I think, cost overruns on these ones. We had a report that came to council through the information index back in, I think it was August, with even more overruns on capital projects to the tune of about 30%. If we're going to try to tame the budgetary crunch that we have before us, this is one of the things we've got to deal with. I find it very troubling, and I think we've got to see something during the budget process to make sure that any projects we're approving are properly costed out. We've got a very good idea what it's going to be, because it's one thing to approve it, and then we get into a project, and suddenly staff's coming back saying we need millions more, because that's not going to solve our problem when we're constantly asking for more. So thank you very much. I just wanted to bring that to council's attention.
Thank you very much. Any other questions in regards to item 3? Any opposition? Seeing none. Mayor Schumer, number 4, please. Number 4.
Sorry. So the same comments apply to most of these. So I'll have these comments as my comments for the remaining items. Thank you.
Thank you. So items 4, 5, 6, and 7 are the comments that Mayor Schumer has brought forward. Item 4, any other questions in regards to it? Being none. Any opposition? Seeing none. Number 5, any questions in regards to it? Seeing none. Any in opposition? Thank you. Item 6, any questions? Seeing none. Any opposition? Item 7, any questions? Seeing none. Any opposition? Thank you. Mayor Schumer, your remarks are being noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's no Health and Social Services report at this time. 9.3 is works, or the 9.4, my apologies, Committee of the Whole. Can I get a mover on that? Moved by Mayor Barton, seconded by Councillor Chapman. Any polls on the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none. Any opposition? Seeing none, that moves forward. Thank you. Just give me a sec, folks. Next item is 10.1, Report 2023 DRT-26. This is the UPass agreement extension. Can I get a mover on it? Moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Mayor Roy. Thank you. Any questions in regards to this item? Questions? Can you put your request in, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Shahid, please proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
With reading to this, this is a UPass agreement with Durham College and so on and so forth. Just quickly, is there any additional budgetary impact because of this?
Any other budgetary impact on this?
Additional.
Additional in regards to the operation of it?
Yeah.
Mr. Holmes, good afternoon. I haven't had a chance to say hi to you, so hi.
Good afternoon. Through the chair, this increase will generate roughly 60,000 additional revenue for the 2020 or for the next school term that the agreement is applicable to.
We're getting money, not reducing money. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you so much.
Any other questions in regards to this item? Seeing none, any in opposition? Being none, thank you. Just a moment, please. So because of the time, what I'm going to ask is that we have a motion to alter the agenda, to bring the notices of motions forward first. I'd like to deal, if you don't mind, with 10.2 report 2023 A18 after lunch. I'm going to presume that we're going to have quite a spirited conversation in regards to that. So I'm wondering if we could deal with the notices of motions. But I need a motion to be able to alter the agenda. Councillor Lee, seconded by Councillor Leahy. Any opposition in regards to altering the agenda? Almost there, Bruce. Okay. Being none, so we have two notices of motion. Is that right, Mr. Clerk? So the first motion is 11.1. This is a core service review. Just give me a second here. Where's the notices here? So the notice of motion was given. Councillor Schumer, is it your intention to move forward with this? Mayor Schumer? Mayor Schumer? Mayor Schumer? Mayor Schumer is not with us at this time. The second notice of motion is also moved by Mayor Schumer. Mayor Schumer, I'll ask, are you there? Mayor Schumer? Mayor Schumer, 3 times. Mr. Clerk, under these circumstances, what would be the proper procedural movement? So under the rules, when you put a notice of motion in, you're supposed to be in audience. Councillor Nicholson, you have a question in regards to it? Can you, oh, there you go. Here. I
It's
got
already there.
used to all this fancy stuff here. Go ahead.
I
sir.
was going to suggest that these items be tabled to later in the meeting. I believe Mayor Schumer didn't expect this to be moved up.
Yeah.
It may not be present, but I don't want to
Okay.
preclude his right to do that.
Could I maybe just say that we defer it to like end of day for business? Maybe that's
That's what I'm looking
instead of
for.
tabling, defer it. Can I get a second? Oh. I'd like to get it dealt with before 1 o'clock if we could. So Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Jubb is willing to get on the phone to get Mayor Schumer on the line. If we could get a motion for a 5-minute recess so he can arrange that.
Sure.
Moved by Councillor Nicholson, second by Councillor Shahid. I see your enthusiasm, Steve. Don't worry about it. For a 5-minute recess, just so we can tee this up. Any in opposition? Seeing none, let's get 5 minutes, 12:35. Thanks. So just before we go to the notice of motion, I just want to say to our audience members, we will not be dealing with 1635 until after lunch, which will be approximately 2:05. We'll start at that particular time, so just so you know, okay? Okay. So members of council, welcome back. We're on to notices of motions, the first one. Councillor Schumer? Mayor Schumer? Put your request in, please. Mayor Schumer, the question is it your intent to move forward with your core service review notice of motion, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The seconder is Councillor Jubb. Councillor Jubb, are you still willing to second the motion, sir?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, you have the floor in regards to your notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think this has been, talked about at least twice now between the Finance Committee and Council when the issue of the budget figures came up earlier in the fall. And on a couple of occasions, the idea of a core services review was raised by not only myself, but I believe the regional chair and others. And I think I think it's time that it be done. I did have a conversation with the CAO where she did inform me that independent department reviews are planned, but I think an overall core services review for the region would be more beneficial, and I think it needs to be completed in a timely way so that this council can actually review it and make implementations from it. And I think the public input is key as well during any core services review. We pretty much just completed one in Brock, and it was a very worthwhile exercise, and it is going to assist us greatly in getting what we do and how we do it better aligned with our goals. So I would ask support for this motion. I think it has received some support already. It's something that's never been done at the region, and I think it's high time. Because I think we've got a lot of issues that need to be thoroughly reviewed, independently reviewed, and acted upon. Thank you very much, and I'll call for a recorded vote when necessary.
Thank you very much, Mayor Schumer. A recorded vote is being requested at the appropriate time. Councillor Jubb, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak to this item at all, sir? Put your request in. Would you like to speak to it, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just briefly, I'm just going to echo what Mayor Schumer, his points there. I do think it is the most responsible thing to do, especially given our constraints right now that we find ourselves in the budget process. And maybe it'll show everything's just perfect, but maybe it'll show some efficiencies where we can budget for. And as the mayor just said, Brock just did go through this. I know there's other lower tiers that are going through this in the region, and it was quite eye-opening for Brock, and it's a good document, and definitely agree that we should be going through this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the speakers list, we go to Mayor Roy. Mayor Roy, good afternoon.
Calling question.
Call the question. Moved by yourself, seconded by Mayor Foster. Any opposition in regards to calling the question? One against calling the question. That moves forward. Yes, point of order, sir. Sorry, please proceed. Just a second.
Apologies.
There you go.
Councillor Schumer did mention a conversation with the CAO. So
Yes.
would it be appropriate before we vote to confirm what was said or any undertakings they were done? Because the CAO had indicated at Finance Committee that there was a willingness on staff to do a partial or a department by department. I think it's important to get that information.
So I'm against my better judgment, because of the reason that I accepted the call to question, and it has been seconded. Your point is well taken. I think it would be helpful. Madam CAO, Councillor Nicholson, you're going to challenge me on that? Just a sec. Can you hit your thing there?
Council's rules of procedure state once an item has been called and seconded, a vote has to be taken immediately before any other debate.
Yep. So I appreciate it. You're absolutely correct. So I'm going to reverse myself. The question is being called. It's been seconded. One is against it. We're calling the question. Recorded vote. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the notice of motion is starting now. Looking for Mayor Collier remote. Mayor Collier a second time. Last call for Mayor Collier.
Results are on the screen, 15 no, 11 yes. The item does not pass. The second notice of motion has been submitted by Mayor Schumer and Councillor Jubb. Mayor Schumer, once again, I ask you to press your, is it your intent to move forward, sir?
Yes, it is.
Councillor Jubb, is it your intention to second this motion, sir?
Yes, it is, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mayor Schumer, you have the opportunity to present this, this notice of motion. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And again, this is from conversations we have all had both recently and a number of times in the past. Municipalities, especially Durham Region, are more and more picking up the tab for provincial or even federal initiatives and responsibilities. And we do it over and over again, knowing that it is not our responsibility, but we start picking those up anyway. And essentially, we're approving de facto downloading from the province. And it's happening throughout the province to the point it is, as we've again seen, it's detrimentally affecting our budgetary process and our taxpayers. And I think it would be an excellent exercise for not only Durham Region, but municipalities across the province to really tally up what we are taking on or what we have taken on in the past with respect to provincial or federal responsibilities that are being funded by the property tax base, which is not where they're supposed to be funded from. And this is not a referendum on should we be doing this, but this speaks to something that the regional chair has brought up numerous times in his attempted conversations with the province on picking up the tab for their responsibilities. They cannot balance their budget on the back of municipalities, and it is certainly not covered through the funding arrangements that we have with the province. So I think it would be an excellent exercise and an ongoing exercise to tabulate and compile this information and have it go through AMO and eventually use it with the province to get a better understanding of exactly just how much property taxpayers in this province are picking up costs when the province makes decisions to stop collecting certain revenues, obviously thinking it has enough. But there's areas, including healthcare and others, that are being picked up by municipalities that should not be. So I think this is a valued exercise, and it will be valued in the future.
Thank you very much, Mayor Schumer. Councillor Jubb, you want to speak to it? You're the seconder? No, you're okay with it? I'll go to our first speaker, Councillor Nicholson. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, I'm absolutely going to support this. I do want to note that we be careful when we tote up downloads, because we at the regional level also download certain costs to the lower tiers, especially in the areas of social and housing, where costs that should be picked up at the regional level are now being forced to be picked up at the local level. However, the one outstanding thing I've always had great difficulty with is the province saying to the lower tier and to the upper tier communities, municipality, if you don't help fund our healthcare system, you're not getting a hospital. I mean, we're not talking small amounts either. We're talking, tens of millions, if not, if we added up over the last 10, 15 years, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars of property tax dollars being used basically to subsidize the provincial budget. If we added in the fact that we have to pay for ambulance services, et cetera, policing, but the standards are not set locally, they're set provincially. We need to be a voice that leads the way and work with our other, especially our large urban municipalities, and say to the province and to the federal government, this is unsustainable. You can't keep dumping on the property tax rate to make your budgets look good. Because in essence, what we're doing is we're paying for the fact that people don't pay for their license plates anymore. We're paying for that. Province gets the press release, we get the bill. And I think there comes a point where the province has to understand it's the problem, it's not the solution. And one way we could do that is to follow what Mayor Schumer and Councillor Jubb said. Let's work with AMO. Let's work with all the groups we can municipally and put a united front together to say, these are the costs that you're dumping on us and please stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. Moving on to Councillor Mulcahy. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I would like to hear if Commissioner Taylor has any comments on this. I know that AMO is already doing this. They have identified the gap provincially that happens with Ontario comparatively to the other provinces to Canada. So where there's a percentage per capita in Ontario is much lower than any other province across the country. So I'm wondering if Commissioner Taylor has any further insight into that.
Commissioner?
So thank you, I appreciate that, and I'm hoping that another suggestion or preference might come out of this. So AMO has been very active in considering this issue, and they've also been working with the big city mayors and Marco and the like, and they have requested through the regional single-tier CAOs and then down to the Ontario Regional Single-Tier Treasurers to take a look at a methodology that all of the large municipalities can put together to answer this funding question that would support a healthy dialogue, hopefully, for fiscal sustainability discussions. So, and I've been asked to be on the advisory committee to try to help develop this across the province with the support of our CAO. So my request would be that we work our way through that process, and then if you're not satisfied, this requires a huge amount of detailed work, and every municipality is different, and this is where we always get into a challenge when we're putting numbers forward. So our objective in the study group that I've been asked to participate in is try to figure out one methodology and one way that we can all calculate it and one number that can be quoted easily in all of these discussions that AMO wants to have. So that's work that I've been asked to do, and I'm hopeful or would request that you would consider that to be a movement towards what your objective is on this motion.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Councillor?
Thank you. So given that, and I do know that AMO highly respects Commissioner Taylor, and I do thank her for her work with them, that I ask that if Mayor Schumer would be open to amendments to support AMO in their position on this as we work through it, because I believe that the voice of 444 municipalities across the province is far greater than us alone, and I think that it's a problem that we're facing united, and with the experts in the field being able to put policy together to position themselves with the province, I think it has a much stronger voice. So I don't know if that requires a deferral, but I'd love to hear from everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Foster.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree fully with Councillor Mulcahy. Ms. Taylor, so what we just heard is you are working on fundamentals definitions now already?
That's correct. That can be applied globally.
Okay, and without those fundamentals, this would be difficult. If this were to pass today, I'm assuming it would be a minimal impact on your staff? I mean, we're only going back to 2010.
So if I may, given, and a councillor asked me a question earlier, at this point, we already prepare 350 reports to the province every year, along with all of our usual reporting burdens. To try to do this length of time specific to this level of detail, while I'm trying to represent how we could do this globally, would be significantly challenging, but as always, I'm at the direction of council.
Mayor Foster?
So this would be probably a good start would have been finance and admin to get some of these answers from you first to look at the next steps. Would that be a good way to do this?
Madam Commissioner?
Through the chair, at the next finance and admin, I'm certainly happy to have a verbal discussion. Chair Ash often asks me if I have any comments at the beginning of the meeting. I could certainly elaborate on some of these initiatives at the commencement of finance and admin next time.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chair, my concern is at council, if we pass this, we are giving direction with no knowledge of the impact on staff or the limitations that staff have. So I think it behooves us to find out what staff are already doing and what the ramifications to the corporation and staff are. Thank you.
Did you say behooves?
I did.
Okay.
That's two of them.
I just want to make sure
That's
that
two
the
of them.
record properly reflects behooves. Councillor Shahid,
Thank you so much. Through you,
pull your
Chair.
microphone down a little bit more, please. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Height restriction issues.
Yes.
Through you, I've seen this since I was elected in 2018. I've seen this with refugee intake since cannabis retail started coming. I will be supporting this, and I also would like to urge that FCM be looked at as well, because other provinces, what burdens they're going, I'm sure they're going through a lot. And the fact of the matter is, I'm okay to defer it if the movers agree, because I think it needs a comprehensive review. We are inundated with a lot of stuff that gets thrown down to us, so I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Councillor Lee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. In light of what we heard from the Commissioner of Finance, would it be appropriate to refer this to the Finance Committee?
Yeah, referral's always
So
in
moved
order.
to
I need a
refer.
seconder on it, though. Seconded by Councillor Leahy. Any opposition in regards to referring it? Seeing none, it's referred. It's referred to F&A, is that correct, Councillor Lee? Yeah, to Finance, yeah. It's the appropriate place. Okay, all right, that's our notices of the motion. Can I have a motion? Can I have a motion for a lunch break from 12:54 to 2 o'clock, I guess it is? We're going to take a full hour. Moved by Councillor Leahy, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Any opposition? Seeing none, lunch is upon us. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to get some refreshments and some lunch. Call this meeting back to order. It is 2 o'clock. Mr. Clerk, would you do a roll call, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 25 here. The item that we've got left to deal with today is 2023A18. Mayor Roy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
And I will be moving the motion, and my seconder is Councillor Crawford.
Okay, it's moved by yourself, seconded by Councillor Crawford. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, you'd like to speak to the item?
I would like to speak to the item, but will we be having presentation from the CAO and legal on this as well, too?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nicholson, did I hear that you had a point of order? Just a sec. Could you hit your request again, please? Sorry. I think I inadvertently. Point of order?
Yeah, just a question and a point of order. Given that this agreement was not referenced and wasn't directed by council in the June 28th meeting, doesn't this require us to reopen the June 28th motion as a reconsideration prior to amending the agreement we voted on?
So I'm going to get CAO to answer that question. Councillor Nicholson, Madam CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The report that you approved in June was simply to purchase the facility. It did outline in the body of the report the intended uses, recognizing that we hadn't yet taken ownership, but that was all there was to that report.
Councillor?
And I have read that report, and I've had an email exchange with the CEO as well. The report talks about an initial 45. It doesn't in any way reference a cap of 45. So my question, what I'm concerned about is, given that it was only a purchase and sale agreement, does this not require to reopen that if we're going to establish an operational cap on the uses of the facility?
Madam CAO?
No, we were clear in the first report that the initial phase 1 of the project would be a shelter. At that time, we said of approximately 45 because we had not yet taken possession of the building and had to ensure that we were able to renovate as required. So we did ultimately renovate 15 rooms for 3 individuals per room as a result of the funding approved in that budget, that report. The report was also very clear that there would be a phase 2 that would identify what other uses would be in the building, which could include supportive or transitional housing, services for the community, and a variety of other options. That was to come back to council next year following a community engagement process, which we will undertake in the new year. The MOU is very similar to what we did with Brock with respect to the supportive housing, and it was developed as a result of community concerns to begin to address how we could address some of the concerns raised by the community, and that is why it's before you today.
And with respect, when you said that council would decide subsequently on future uses, this agreement precludes a further expansion of the low barrier shelter, which was not in the original report.
Madam CAO?
That's correct. We went into good faith negotiations with the municipality of Whitby and agreed to cap admittance at 45 individuals. We had said approximately 45 in that report, again, simply because we did not know what we would be dealing with once we started to do the renovations. It was never and is not our intent to convert the building into one large shelter. It was always our intent to add housing and other programs that would be influenced by community engagement to support both those in the shelter to help move them towards permanent housing, but also to address other community uses. We've subsequently have had interest from our various colleges, universities, and health partners. And as part of the consultation that we'll undertake in the new year, we will come back with the full vision for the site for council's approval.
Okay, just so I can be clear then, if we pass this agreement, we are saying, at least for this term of council, that there will not be anything beyond 45 low barrier shelter beds. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we do have a commitment if in an emergency, for example, such as an ice storm, and 46, 47, or 48 appear at the door, that we would ensure that those individuals are transferred by cab or other means to another shelter with space or to a warming center, and we will be releasing a media release tomorrow outlining where all of the warming centers will be across the region for this coming winter. So we will not be leaving anyone on the street.
Councillor, hopefully that helps in
It
regards to your
is then,
inquiry.
I'm assuming then, Mr. Chair, the ruling is that it doesn't require reconsideration?
That's correct, sir.
All right, just add to the list whenever you proceed.
Thank you very much. I'll ask you to put your request in again once again. Back to Mayor Roy. Mayor Roy, did you want to speak to this item
Do
at
you
this?
want, do you want me to do opening, or would you rather?
Yes, please.
prefer- okay.
I'd
All right.
appreciate it, and
Yeah.
I'll go to your seconder after that.
Okay, thank
Please
you very much.
proceed.
Members of council, today that in front of us, we have an agreement that has been done in good faith between the town of Whitby and also with the region of Durham. The members of the community have had meetings with us. We've received submissions of recommendations, and the last version of the agreement, which was viewed by members of Whitby Council and also members of the public, had made an extensive submission on November 7th to our staff. The staff from the region have included from Mr. Hunt, our solicitor, including our social services and our CAO. And at the town of Whitby, it has been with our CAO, our solicitor, and our director of corporate services that has brought this all together. And members of Whitby Council approved it on Monday night after a lengthy meeting as well. While it's not perfect, it has met, especially in the areas of being able to move forward with this. I know that today we also heard some additional submissions from residents of the community, and we did not make any amendments on Monday night. The report that was in front of us was a report that included this agreement in good faith. Hopefully today, that is the same process as what we're moving forward. And if there's any type of recommendations, and yesterday in the regional review meeting amongst the regional councillors with Whitby, we did highlight that there will be still some consideration for safety, consideration for the extents of where we would be looking at security, but also our role as a local municipality and how we will contribute to this as well too. I would hope that the process for moving forward with any type of consideration, that would be a direction to staff to look at. Within the report, you will be seeing also that there's a commitment in the first year to come to Whitby Council up to 3 times. There will be regular meetings. Now, hopefully, we can move forward with the Community Liaison Committee that has been put on hold until this agreement has been finalized. We did receive a fair number of submissions from the region of Durham. In conversations with mayors and with other members of council in the past few months, and those who have been here as well too, we have heard and seen that as we are moving forward, that additional shelters will be happening across the region of Durham. So the template of not only what took place with the Beaverton model, we are also seeing that with this has helped us to really to bring together what the framework for the policy for shelter should be. And as the Chair of Health and Social Services, and I know with working with the staff, that we will be creating a policy framework for this, and this will be brought forward back in the first quarter of the new year. So for the other municipalities, as we move forward, and I know that there has been concerns, and Mr. Chair, as yourself in our conversations, especially with modeling for what has happened within Oshawa, that I think it's that continuous dialogue that does need to take place. There's an ability to have that dialogue, and there's an ability, especially through the Community Liaison Committee, to continue that dialogue and to give oversight as to what is happening here as well too. I want to thank the community for their commitment and their delegations into this, but I also want to thank the staff that have pulled together all the comments that have been received and have come to this final agreement. And I think it's a good agreement for where we are at now, but also recognizing that there should be considerations as we move along, that we just don't stop, that this is just the beginning, that we can actually have the ability to, if there's a concern that's taking place, we will work with it. We will be going out as the town of Whitby and be speaking to our local businesses around there as well too, to give some guidelines and insight as to what some of the concerns could be happening or may happen, but where contact information is as well too. So it's a two-way street here, and we are working together to make sure that we take care of the local residents, but also taking care of our vulnerable community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor Roy. Our seconder is Councillor Crawford. Councillor Crawford, would you like to speak to it at all? Okay, thank you very much. I'll go to Councillor Leahy. Councillor Leahy, good afternoon. It's 2:11. We have a motion in front of us, and please proceed.
Yeah, no, I have some questions to staff first before I put some amendments on the floor. Depending on their answers, there could just be one amendment instead of several. My first question will be through to staff. So just to confirm my understanding that in around the April to spring timeframe, we're going to get a better sense of what's going to be a high level of the phase 2. So we'll be able to say to residents and a rough idea of what the transitional housing, the office space, the rest of the different pieces is going to be in that shelter. Is that a fair statement?
Madam CAO.
We will be reporting forward in the new year with respect to the future use of the remainder of the building. I can't guarantee that will be in April. We'll go through our procurement process in the new year to select a third party to assist us with that community engagement. I would think a fall timeline is more in line.
Councillor?
Okay, so you will really take us a year to get a sense of what's going to be in the rest of the building is what you're saying we wouldn't be able to do it in the spring? I thought there was a mention somewhere about a spring in the agreement itself.
I'll turn it over to the commissioner who may be able to add more details, but we do have to go through the procurement process, which will add several weeks.
Okay.
Commissioner Stella, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Through the chair, yes, there is a point in the agreement that speaks to coming back to this council with just a high-level overview of where we land with the consultation and how we're going to utilize the building. That's like a first phase. And yes, as our CEO has mentioned, we do have to go through the RFP process to gather sort of the designer architect for that work. And then after that, we plan to continue with whatever input we get from this council and go to Whitby Council sometime in the summer with additional information and present what we have, and then come back to this council again, I would say late fall, early winter, with final plans for the building, sorry.
Perfect. Okay, so spring's good. So that's first point. We don't need to address that. The next one was that, where is my next piece on here? And then the security services. Now, a lot of concern from residents around type of security, whether they're the residents inside the building, outside of the building. Do they have the full mental health training, use of force training, all those different things? Can we speak to any of that more than what's been in the agreement? It's pretty vague in the agreement.
Commissioner?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We will, the agreement talks about a 24/7 security presence in the building to support those who are being supported in the building and, of course, the surrounding community. We're also going to have it's a drive-by security process that we have in other locations today, and we'll work through sort of the scheduling of that through our contracts with security and our works team. The staff who will be operating the building. This is an important component. They are trained professionals. They will be trained in nonviolent crisis intervention with de-escalation processes, first aid, naloxone training. That's all part of the process. And further to that is our outreach team. That's just started this past week, and our outreach team, their role is, along with our PCOP and MHOP, to support the surrounding community across Durham, not just what's noted in the Appendix D, across Durham. So they are the ones who, when we hear about a crisis in a park, or there's an encampment, or something is happening, they're the ones who we call, and they go out and they assess the situation and then determine how to support the individuals.
Councillor?
Okay, so further to that, one of my other points was around, but was mentioned by some delegates around the hydro corridor behind the houses there, like Durham Christian Homes, the seniors, the long-term care homes, all that stuff. Are we able to address those concerns as they come up, or are you less worried about the boundaries and knowing that if there is an issue, we're just going to deal with it?
Commissioner?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. What we do today, Councillor, we don't have boundaries today. So our staff are called and they address the situation. It doesn't matter where the issues are, whether it's the north, south, east, or west of Durham.
All right, next one was around, reporting of outcomes and measurement and other different things. Like we have to have general measurements on how many people are in the shelters that transition to transitional housings, move on to micro homes. Are we going to be able to report on those details of what are the outcomes of the 1635 building to council or to Whitby Council or to community in some way, shape, or form? Will that go through the CLC? How will those measures come out?
So before I go to the commissioner, I'm going to add an extra minute because of the responses, but you are running out of time.
Sure.
Commissioner, to the question and try and be clear and concise.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We would respond like we do every year during our budget presentation. That's when we do a lot of our sharing of outcomes for the various programs that we deliver, Councillor.
Okay, so on my last 2 points, second last one was around, the supports that I outlined in this agreement. I'd like to see that they would be offered to any Durham municipality that's going to be hosting a shelter now, in the past, or in the future. Is that going to be addressed in some way, shape, or form?
Commissioner?
I'm sorry, the MOU, I'm sorry.
Just
Councillor.
some of the principles and policies that are coming out of, let's say, this agreement.
I will ask CAO to.
Sure.
CAO?
Yes, we will be bringing forward a policy framework in the first quarter of the new year that outlines all of the supports that the region will be providing in and around shelters across the region, so that there will be no further need for MOU negotiations. There will be a consistent and transparent service level across the region as it relates to shelters.
Perfect. No, that's a great answer. So then my last one is on my motion, was just for the one amendment then, as I was talking to staff, so I have it into the clerk. And so just one minor amendment that I think it would be beneficial to all municipalities, that instead of right now where it says they're going to support 50%, I don't know if you want to put it up on the screen.
I need to rule on any amendments in regards to it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not going to accept any amendments in regards to it. The reason being is the motion that has been moved under 2023-A18. Under A, it says final and binding agreement between the Region of Durham and the Town of Whitby. Therefore, the agreement has been agreed to. This is final and binding, and that is my ruling in regards to any amendments. So I am ruling that it is out of order.
Well, I would just only ask there that this is the first time the agreement's in front of us, and council makes the decisions, staff make the recommendations. We always have the opportunity to make amendments to anything that's on the floor.
That's my ruling. If you disagree with me, you're more than welcome to challenge the chair.
Well, then how do we make adjustments to this in the future?
In the future, Madam CAO?
The policy framework will come forward to council, and there will be opportunities to influence it at that time.
Councillor?
Like in January?
First quarter of next year.
Okay, fair enough. I just think the region should be paying for 100% of the costs, at least up to the first million, not sharing. They're putting it in.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Nicholson, good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question to our legal department first. How do we make the statement that it's final and binding? We know legally it's neither final nor binding to a future council.
So
future council can change the policy on a dime if it wished.
So I'm going to go to our litigator, our legal team. Mr. Hunt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Carter. So to respond to the question, so I think this question relates to an earlier point raised by Councillor Nicholson with respect to the authority of this council to bind successive councils. It's an interesting area of legal discourse, perhaps not as interesting to this council, so I'll try to keep it short. But it is my opinion that so really, council cannot bind the legislative authority of a subsequent council. But this agreement and the terms of this agreement do not invoke the legislative powers of the region, and therefore meets the legal test to be binding on Durham Region in the contract sense. So I did hear your previous point, and that's my response to that. There may be another question about amendments, but I'll wait for that question to come because I don't think that was Councillor Nixon's question.
The question I have is that included in this agreement are future policy directions that subsequent councils will have to fund when other items come forward. It's my understanding, and please correct me, because I've been here a while, is that if this council wanted to reconsider an agreement, it has the power to do so. if a future council wish to change or modify or eliminate an agreement or a bylaw, it has the power to do so. Is that not correct under the Municipal Act?
Mr. Hunt, to the question, please, sir.
So first, I would offer a bit of a caution that, an in-depth discussion of what council's authority is probably best suited in closed session. But I will say that it's my view that there's nothing in this agreement which impinges on council's legislative powers, and therefore it would extend beyond the term of this council. And Councillor Nicholson is correct in stating the law that the council's ability to bind a subsequent term of council is limited, but is only limited with respect to impinging on the exercise of their legislative powers.
Okay. Councillor?
Last clarification. Is not one of those legislative powers the right to modify or appeal or repeal an existing policy or agreement?
Mr. Hunt?
So I would say, I'm gonna say generally no, because I don't want to hinder council's ability to make this argument in future situations. But I'm gonna say generally no. Council, and maybe stated another way, council, as part of its natural person powers, can enter into contracts, and those contracts can be binding, and this is, in my view, one of those contracts. And council does and is currently entered into a number of contracts which are binding and would extend beyond the term of this contract. And, a simple example of that might be a road contract, for example, where obviously the parties want to rely on those obligations extending beyond the term of the current council.
All right.
Councillor?
Thank you. Those are my questions. Just a comment now. This is a very difficult issue for me because I've supported this shelter plan from day one. I spoke quite eloquently, I think, at the last meeting in support of the shelter. I've applauded Mayor Roy in her leadership in Whitby, and I know she's taken a hell of a beating, most of it unfairly, for her actions trying to lead her community. And I want to state her that I was very proud to have her as a colleague in bringing this forward. I understand the pressure that the town of Whitby is in to have this agreement. But I am a regional councillor, not a Whitby town councillor. And you're asking 8 municipalities, the taxpayers of which, to fund this process. And we're talking tens of millions of dollars for what we're committing to is at minimum 45 beds. If this agreement had been attached to the purchase and sale agreement, it was my honest belief that the purchase and sale agreement would not have carried council. I think it is very difficult, even for those who are wholeheartedly behind shelters, to justify the expenditure that we were asked to undertake for the limited return that we're getting in this agreement. The report itself says there's 200 plus people that are homeless in our community. I think that number is ridiculous. I've seen times in the summers that many in my ward, let alone in downtown Oshawa. I think there's a large number of homeless people in our communities that are not counted in this list. There is an equally high number of people who are couch surfing or sharing accommodation or living on floors on mats because they can't get housing. And to put an artificial cap of 45, I think is something I have great difficulty with. Going beyond that, and even more egregious in my mind, is the clause that says priority will be given to those who are residents of Whitby. Well, if all 8 of us are paying the bills, then the residents of all 8 communities should have equal access to this facility. It can't be that 7 pay for 1. And I'm sure that, quite honestly, that my good colleagues from Whitby would argue the same argument was going the other way in another community. We need a better return on investment for the money that we have spent on this site. And this agreement, I believe, ties our hands. It doesn't allow this council the freedom and the ability to show leadership, to decide what our priorities are. In fact, the entire negotiation that's been undertaken in the last few months, all the terms that were argued by the region were not established by the region. The report itself says it was under the direction of the CAO and his regional chair. No committee present any directions. So what we got back, we were not consulted in its development. And we're being told today, either you vote yay or nay, but you can't move an amendment. You can't tweak it in any way, even if you have serious concerns, and I have a number. They're probably totally opposite to Councillor Leahy's numbers, because I would go the other way. But my concern is we're committing tax dollars of all of Durham Region for an unknown. I don't know how much this is going to cost. I don't know what extent security is going to be involved. I don't know what impact that's going to have on security on the other municipalities. I tell you, Oshawa has spent millions on security the last 2 or 3 years and beyond, and there has been no contribution until recently from the region of Durham.
Councillor, I need you to wrap up, please.
I'm looking at my clock. The only thing I can say here is, look, I want the shelter.
Yeah.
I believe it's necessary.
Yes, sir.
It's long overdue, but I cannot support this agreement, as I believe it abdicates our responsibility to look after those in need.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Appreciate it. Councillor Shahid, good afternoon. If you want to pull your microphone down, please. Thank you very
Good
much.
night. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I have a few questions, so you will see me that I will be talking at a very higher rate. Proximity is definitely discussed today several times of including that. I know, Chair, you're not taking our amendment. I would like that question answered. If the residents want proximity to be increased, what can we do about it?
Proximity.
Of changing the boundaries from Bellwood to Burns.
All right. Madam CAO.
Sorry, those are the boundaries that were negotiated. So at this point, we would not recommend any change to them. They were expanded from the initial boundaries as a result of the community engagement, and we do feel that the boundaries are sufficient. That being said, if there are any issues, as the Commissioner commented earlier, we do not have boundaries with respect to where we send assistance if there are issues beyond those boundaries. Those essentially define the cost-sharing elements of the plan. But if there's a need for support of the PCOP program or DRPS, the boundaries are irrelevant.
Councillor.
Thank you so much. My next question, and I'm going really fast because DRPS and its involvement is zero in this agreement. Can you speak on that? Why isn't we are getting any comments on DRPS and how involved are they going to be with the sense of security for my residents?
Madam CAO, to the question, please.
DRPS will be asked to give us advice with respect to lighting, security, and design issues on the site, and we will obviously liaise with them as needed, including through the Community Liaison Committee.
Councillor.
Thank you. Again, I have my comments as well, so I'm going to speak very, very quickly. Phase 2, and what would it look like? About Phase 2, what are the community engagement, or this is only between CLC and the region?
Madam CAO.
No, we will be recruiting a firm to assist us with the community engagement, and there will be engagement of the community.
Thank you so much. Next question. Security of 1 year or beyond?
Madam CAO.
Security of the shelter will be ongoing.
Okay. The cap of 45, that will remain regardless of the 46th person comes in?
Madam CAO.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you so much. My comments, Chair, and I'm going to speak without prejudice, and please let me speak, and I will try to finish this in 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, on Monday night, I agreed on the agreement on principle only, because Town of Whitby cannot negotiate with Town of Whitby of what the agreement will be. I agreed on it only because I was in the mind frame that over here we are going to amend it a little bit to bring my residents some sort of safety and bring peace to their mind, because they are raveling right now. Mr. Chair, not amending it is wrong. Without prejudice, it's unfair and unkind. We'd like to amend it because these residents, we need to put their sense of security at rest, because I know the region is kind. I know the region is going to look after us, but we need to give them reassurances. The words like consider and may are upsetting my residents, and I want to bring some sort of comfort to them. I'm not able to rest their concerns. I assure you that opening it up to amendments from Town of Whitby regional councillors will help support this furthermore. I cannot support this agreement as is, and I will repeat that. And I'll tell you why. I have 1 minute and 20 seconds. The residents who came in on Monday night, they are immediately upset for their sense of security, their viability. And we've heard them again and again and again. And I know that some of us are frustrated because we want to move this file. I want to speak on behalf of the residents on Greenfield, Long, all of the streets that are there. There is an immediate concern of an uprise of some help for their sense of security. And I can only speak for my residents. A resident came to me and said, Malia, you're not talking about the people who are homeless. I want to help them, but I want to help them together with the residents who are living there, so they feel that they have some say in it. So, Mr. Chair, if there are no amendments that are going to be accepted today, I cannot, in good conscience, accept this because I won't be able to sleep. And that's what it is. So, it upsets me to see my residents upset, and I have to go back to them, and I'm answerable to them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Greatly appreciated. Moving on to Mayor Collier. Mayor Collier, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I just want to speak in support of this memorandum of understanding. I've heard a lot of the comments. I understand where Malia is coming from. However, I mean, as somebody who has a shelter in our town run by the region, I can count on one hand the number of complaints I've actually got from residents about that specific shelter. A lot of the things that people are saying and assuming are going to happen, thankfully, have not happened. People are frustrated in our community with homelessness as a whole, with sometimes the state of cleanliness that happens around some of these encampments and everything else. But I'm not going to point to the shelter and say that that's the cause, because we are going to have that with or without. I just hope that the residents of Whitby and the people that are not supportive of this or have concern about this will experience that same thing as they go forward. And this is not a lot of the things that people are thinking is going to happen, just don't happen. That being said, I'm glad to see Whitby stepping up in this matter. I'm glad to see the memorandum of understanding. I'm glad to see the region stepping up to contribute towards it. You all know I supported in the Oshawa motion earlier this year about financial support in Oshawa. Our expenses in Ajax so far this year are just under $500,000. We do not have a memorandum of understanding. I'm happy to hear the CEO say that there is going to be a policy come out so everything is treated fairly and equally. We all of us, none of us want these in our municipalities, let's be honest, but it is a fact of life across not just Durham, but the province. And we need to do what we need to do to address it. So I'm going to support this. Might not be popular, but I think it needs to be done for the protection, for the security, for everything else. And I think it is a compromise. You're never going to make everybody happy, but I think this is the best way to go. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, Mayor Schumer, you're our next speaker on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'm just wondering, because obviously even this morning there were concerns brought forward by residents with respect to, I guess it's recital F on page 1 of the agreement. I'm just wondering if staff can comment on the interpretation of that, because there seems to be an interpretation that, additional space would be forthcoming in the event of some kind of issue. So,
Mayor Schumer, are you speaking F, homelessness has been recognized as a crisis in Durham region?
Yes.
That clause? Yes. Okay, I'll get an answer for you. Commissioner Stella, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, well, I might have to look to my counterpart here, Mr. Hunt, for some additional details. But from our perspective, the 45 cap means if anything happens in the community that requires us to expand from 45 to another number, that we would be able to do so. But we would certainly be in concert with the town of Whitby and our CEO and chair.
Mayor Schumer.
Okay. Thank you very much. And pardon me while I'm scrolling through it. But section 16 speaks to on-site security, and in fact, in addition to that, and they talk about the mobile security team Can somebody comment on exactly what the objectives, responsibilities, and abilities of this mobile team would be outside of the grounds of 1635?
Madam Commissioner, would you like to speak to it, or Mr. Hunt?
Well, maybe I'll start, and I may turn it over to other staff if they've got more details on the security. But just from my involvement in negotiating this, it was an item that was discussed. Councilor Schumer, Mayor Schumer is correct that we did receive that input from members of the community that were looking for more details as to exactly how that off-site security would function. And, I can say that we resisted providing additional details because what we're talking about is security. Number one, generally speaking, we were cautious about providing operational level of commitments in an agreement. We really tried to stick to principles. So the principle here is that we do have mobile security available to similar types of regional facilities as in the shelter spaces in Oshawa, and we were extending that same level of service to this shelter. So that was really the principled statement we wanted to make with respect to security, as opposed to the specifics of what the capabilities and how that security might operate. We were somewhat resistant to providing those details because A, they're operational, and B, we're talking about security, and we don't really want to speak to either the limits or capabilities of what our security is in a public way. So that's the high-level answer. Details on security might go to others.
Okay. Mayor Schumer, I'm going to add a minute to your time, so you got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. And that is a concern of mine. Section 13 speaks to, a number of items, lighting, security cameras, landscaping, other features, but has may include. At what point is it going to be determined whether or not that's going to actually happen? Because I hate the idea of may include, and it's been mentioned already by another counselor about that. So at what point does may include actually happen?
I think that direction will come through the crime prevention through environmental design. It's the reason why the may is there, to be able to determine what is best practices and what's practical in regards to this facility. Mr. Hunt, do you agree with that statement?
Yes, and anything after May are the topic areas that are covered in the crime prevention through environmental design. Exactly how we meet the CPED requirements, that's why the May is there, and it's different for every site.
Thank you. Mayor Schumer?
Okay. Thank you. And lastly, I guess it's a bit of a follow-up to Councillor Nicholson's questions. And so this is an agreement. And whether or not another one of the parties, doesn't act on a commitment in the agreement, or a party is seen to not be acting on a commitment, what mechanisms are in this agreement in the event that happens? So whether the city of Whitby or the region of Durham feel the other party has not lived up to sections of this, or in fact they say they haven't, what mechanisms are in place for enforcement?
Mr. Hunt, do you have a response in regards to that question, sir?
Well, it is a contract. First of all, I mean, we're talking good faith between two levels of government. So one would hope that it could be corrected amicably. There is a dispute resolution mechanism. Secondly, as with any contract, you can enforce the terms of that contract. So, generically in court, you could bring a motion for specific performance, which means it's a direction from the court to do X, Y, and Z, or alternatively bring a claim for damages. So for example, if there was a cost item like the cost sharing, that would be one where we would expect the town might send us a bill, and if we didn't pay it, take us to court.
Thank you very much. Mayor Schumer, I need you to wrap up, please.
No, I guess that's okay. I am a little disappointed that any kind of amendments are not being accepted, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair. Just want to note that I want to thank Councillor Nicholson for bringing up a lot of points that he brought up. I share a lot of those concerns, but at the same time, though, we're nearing December 1st. We're anticipating a very cold winter, and I'd hate to be responsible for anybody not getting any one of those 45 beds, though I personally think we should be expanding that number to as high as the facility will allow. But ultimately, I understand timing and negotiations are at play, so I will absolutely agree with this motion, but I do share Councillor Nicholson's concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kerr, could you, thank you very much. I do apologize. You were on the list. I took you off the list. You gave me the dirty look and I've come back.
No,
to
I
you.
didn't
So-
give you, I
no,
just
listen,
wave and
I'm
smile.
not hurt, but it's.
I wouldn't
go
give
ahead.
you a dirty look.
So,
That's not my
anyways.
nature.
Yeah. Anyways, Councillor Kerr, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'm going to say right off the bat, I'm 100% in agreement of both this agreement and the shelter. I think it's really important for people to understand why, including my colleagues and those in the gallery. For those who may not know, I was the person who, with Daniel Cullen, who was a homeless man for 25 years, started the GAP Committee in Oshawa. And why did we call it the GAP Committee? Because we wanted to do something on after World Homeless Day to look after, to help succeed those people, to take them from total destitution in life with no hope and no motivation to a safe place to live, a permanent place to live, employment so they can get on with their life. And what we found was that there were many, many gaps in services between this position and that position. So our first meeting in February 2019, we had members of the Homeless Committee, the Perilously Community, the Perilously Housed Community, and social service people in Durham Regional Police. And we sat around a table and I did my retired professor thing, which was to do the cooperative learning group exercise to formulate what it was most needed. And the number one thing that came up was a social services hub. Because at that time, the people in those affected communities were traversing, walking upwards of an hour and 2 hours of 43 minutes per day just to get where they need to get through the day. And to have all those services in one hub, if possible, is deemed to be the ultimate. So we started, and along came COVID. And along came Mission United. And Mission United has developed into what's been called the gold standard of social services hubs, but it's not 100% complete. So what we have in Oshawa, on the other side of what we call the creek, on the other side of downtown, is where we have located social services. And we also have Service Ontario, Service Canada, Legal Aid, a dental clinic. So it's close by. And on top of that, we have other organizations, Durham Outlook for the Needy, Do Unto Others, First Light Foundation Shelter, and we have Gate 316. All volunteer organizations, all in my ward, all in that part of downtown Oshawa. And you know what? For the longest time, when I worked with CAMP, Community Assisted Meal Program, upwards of 40 to 45 out of the 120 people we fed per day were coming from Whitby. There was a few from Clarington, but they were coming from Whitby. And you know, as the Mayor Carter always says, you know, we don't have a compassion issue in Oshawa, we have a capacity issue. So there's a very great need for some form of shelter and support in Whitby. So along comes this concept. And what you have in this concept is an all-in-one facility. This is absolutely incredible. And yes, there's a 45 cap at the moment. That may or may not shift in future, but it's necessary. Why? Because the cold season's coming and something has to be done immediately. But look at the other services that are going to be there. One of those is transitional housing. The only thing we have close to that in Oshawa are the microhomes. We're thankful for those. The other thing that we did in between was something called the Keepers Project, which was to put a bank of 12 lockers outside Simcoe Street United Church, where Mission United is, and the homeless can get a key for a free locker to store their stuff while they look for a job. Because in the old days, they would have to hide it behind a bush somewhere, and they come back at the end of the day and their stuff is gone. Everything they had in the world, gone. So we started that, and it has solar panels on top, and they can charge a cell phone. But more importantly, there's a unit number on it. So now they can get mail. So that was our first start at transitional housing. This place, 1635, is going to have transitional housing in it. So now somebody can come in from a homeless encampment, no hope, no motivation, destitute, can get a warm roof over their head, bed, food, clothing, counseling, support, outreach to medical services where they need it. And when they're ready, they can move into transitional housing and from there get career counseling and move into a job and then their own place to live.
Councillor Kerr, I need you to wrap up, please.
This is an amazing opportunity. And what's even a vital part of this is that there's a liaison community so that these aspects of this agreement can be looked at in communication with the residents. We absolutely need this, and I can hardly wait for December the 15th so we can start looking after those in need at a much higher level. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kerr. Moving over to Councillor Yamada. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. So I guess I am disappointed that we can't move amendments here today because I think the added cost, our staff ballparked it on Monday at about $2 to $2.5 million. And so that added cost is going to be borne to taxpayers. I don't think it should be. Point 14 in the report talks about operational strategies. What will those look like? My seconds are being wasted.
Sorry, you're referring to point 14 in the
agreement,
report?
yes, I'm gonna go through the
So I'm
agreements.
not sure. Durham Region shall use physical design and operation strategies to mitigate impacts to and maintain safety of the neighborhood residents, particularly those directly adjacent to 1635. Madam CAO or Commissioner Stella?
I will ask the solicitor to jump in, but I believe this gets back to what we talked about earlier with respect to the environmental design to ensure crime prevention and safety.
Mr. Hunt, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, and I'll apologize. It's probably a legal translation of some of the things that were said in the room when this was being drafted. Some of the operational strategies I understand will be programming and things aimed at providing support to occupants in the shelter so that they remain connected to the shelter as opposed to there was an expression of concern about them leaving the shelter during the day. So there will be supports and programs. Those will be the operational strategies to mitigate the impact.
Thank you. Councillor Yamada?
Thank you. And again, point 15 and 16 in the report or in the agreement talks to mobile security and security in general. I'm just really concerned because I've heard the broad answer, but I really need to understand what this will look like because if we have mobile security driving around, there's a problem, and they call 911. There was one delegate who came in a meeting earlier through this process who stated that he got rid of the people camping out in the foyer of his building because it took the police 3.5 hours to show up. So I kind of want to understand, are we going to be having these problems?
Madam CAO?
I'm not sure quite how to respond. I think the commissioner did an excellent job and the solicitor of explaining how the security will work. This is services that we are used to providing around the region. And there is an escalation process. So if a situation does escalate, yes, there may be a point where we have to call DRPS, but there is 24/7 security on site, and then the driving service that's currently available in Oshawa being extended to Whitby.
Councillor?
Point 45, the subcontracting the agreement with Whitby's consent. Who is responsible for giving that consent? Would it be council, staff, or just the mayor?
Mr. Hunt?
Whitby in this case is like it would be a go to the town of Whitby for their consent. How Whitby deals with the consent would be with respect to their council, whether or not council has delegated authority. So that's within Whitby's control. But to comply with this clause, the region would require a consent from the town of Whitby, and we would take it in whatever way Whitby chose to approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Councillor?
Point 36, it speaks to the consultant, third-party consultant. How will the consultant be selected? Because in my personal opinion, the consultant who the region has employed wasn't that great.
Madam CAO, to the question, please.
First of all, the consultant to the region was an expert in the field. In this case, the
And he wasn't
consultant
that
would be
great.
selected through an RFP process.
Councillor Yamada, I know that this is a passionate subject matter to you. I ask that we show each other respect
Thank
and
you,
staff.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
My last question speaks to point 41. Talks about the responsibility of losses. So the region understands that there will be losses, that there will be issues. I do think it is unfair that now residents are going to have to incur losses. There's going to be issues pertaining to insurance that now residents are going to have to pay probably more. The issue of the area that is defined in this agreement really doesn't tie us to helping those residents.
Madam CAO?
I will ask the solicitor to comment, but this relates specifically to omissions or failures on the part of either municipality to properly provide services, in which case they would be responsible for the losses that resulted from their inappropriate action.
Mr. Hunt?
Yeah, this is boilerplate language, but in any agreement, really what it's saying is that if Whitby agrees to do something, they're obligated to do it, in a, meeting a certain level of service standard. If they don't, they're responsible for those losses. The regions make commitments. We're expected to do a good job with those, and if we don't, we're wholly responsible for ours. So it's really sort of standard contract language.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you. And I guess I'll just end with this. This whole process has been a failure to taxpayers, from the purchase of the building to where we are today. The fact that we are asked to host this homeless shelter within our community, and the fact that we are going to be adding more cost to Whitby taxpayers. The idea of how many more people are going to be in this building over the long term, we don't know. There's going to be a process. I hope it's better than the one that started back in June. But I am disappointed with how this is all played out, and I'm equally saddened for the residents who are now going to have to endure this. And with that said, I cannot support an agreement that does not support taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yamada. Councillor Chapman, good afternoon, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I find some of the conversation very interesting in the fact that, first off, it's the incremental expenses that we're talking about here. The region's not going to charge Whitby for the running of the shelter. That's part of the social services and the regional budget. It's the incremental stuff that Whitby has asked for that the region in this document says we'll split the cost with you. Because guess what? Whether they're homeless or whether they have a home, the people that are in Whitby are residents of Whitby. And Whitby has a responsibility, the same as the ones in Oshawa. Why we didn't come and say, we want you to cover all our expenses. We want a cost share. We want you to pay for some of this stuff. This is the incremental stuff that has been asked for, which is very disappointing to suggest. And by the way, any of those extra costs, if you want the region to pay for them, are going to increase everybody's regional taxes because they have to be paid, including the people in Whitby. It's also starting to come across like, are there not any homeless people in Whitby? We hear from the residents that there's all sorts of them in various places, right? Down trails and along things like in all of our communities throughout about the region. But for somehow this is going to attract more of them, as opposed to, in my mind, I think it will get more of them out of those ravines, especially in the cold weather, when instead of the police going and finding a body like they did in Bowmanville yesterday, right? God knows why that was, a homicide or what, because it hasn't been released. Somebody frozen in, what is that? I saw Lick Pond, which I thought was an interesting name for a pond, right? This is going to save some of those people. They need to do that. What's disappointing to me is that we actually had to come with a memorandum of understanding so that we could help these people, right? As opposed to, now, what the good part that's coming out of this, because we've had all this discussion, and I know why we've gone to a memorandum of understanding because of what's happened, But the fact that we're going to come up with a policy that's going to recognize the issues that all of the 8 communities in Durham are facing at different levels with the incremental costs and things that are happening because of providing services. We know that Whitby has a number of homeless people. We know that Oshawa has probably the majority of homeless people, with Ajax probably very close behind them, and it's been developing. But the other communities also have them. The interesting thing about a mobile security, what is a mobile security going to do? Well, I would hope that when we do the RFP or however we hire this security, that they'll do something like they've done in Oshawa. We have a security patrol and a bylaw patrol. They don't go out to say, hey, you're a homeless guy, get off the street, you can't stay here. They're also outreach workers. And now we've increased those numbers of outreach workers with the doubling of the PCOP and the mental health team and all that. That's who they should be calling. 3 hours for a police to respond to a lobby of people in the lobby. I assume that when the call was in, they weren't beating the hell out of the lobby or threatening anybody. They were sitting in there to get warm. And as things go, what we hear from the police, and that they need more people, it doesn't go to the top level. They're looking to try and stop physical harm to other people. So as I said, it's disappointing that we had to go to a memorandum of understanding. I understand why we've done that. I'm looking forward to the policy so that we can spread this out throughout the region. We can also spread out the costs so that they're not specific, because each community, each of the municipalities have different levels of those incremental needs, right? Depending on how many homeless they have and what the homeless are doing and what the cleanup is. But I think as a start, this is a very good document. We don't need any amendments to it. We need to get on with this. This has been far too long. Yes, 15th of December, guess what? It was cold this morning. It was minus 11 this morning, right? Imagine if this had been open 2 weeks ago, right? Some of those people do that. And we're going to get some of the people out of the ravines that don't want to be there, right? But they have no other options. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chapman. Councillor McCaughey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair, for for hosting us today. There's been some really great commentary, and I want to thank Councillor Kerr for his feedback today. That was quite impassioned, so thank you. There was ample opportunity for all of us to provide input after the October 30th meeting, and some did. And, you know, I'm grateful for that. And I understand the desire to make further tweaks and amendments to this. I mean, it's a matter of comfort, right? And the community has been wonderful in expressing their concerns, and we're hearing it loud and clear. But I tend to agree with Councillor Chapman in that the positive outcome of this is the potential for a good policy around this moving forward, because this is just one shelter, but we're going to have these everywhere. This issue is not going away. We are all aware of those people in our communities that are living, as Councillor Watton and I were talking earlier, people in the north that don't have oil in their tanks and are living in cold houses. You know, people are really struggling right now. And we know it's only a matter of time and mortgage renewals and everything else that's coming that we're going to see those numbers escalate quickly. And there is a working poor class that are going to be out on the streets. So I do feel, and I'm very grateful that we have an MOU, because I do feel it provides some sense of security in some of those issues that are the most concerning. However, I do hope that Mayor Collier is absolutely correct that we aren't going to see the sorts of issues that are most concerning. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your comments. Mayor Ash, good afternoon, sir.
Good evening.
Not yet, it's pre-evening. It's pre-evening.
I move that the question be put.
Question to be put, seconded by Mayor Barton. Recorded vote on calling the question. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on calling the question starting now.
Okay, that passes. So we're a vote on the main motion. It was a recorded vote requested by Mayor Roy. Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the main motion starting now.
The main motion passes 19-8. One moment, please. So next on the agenda is unfinished business. We have none. Announcements by members of council at this time. Councillor Shahid, I know that you had requested the opportunity to speak. Is that request still required? Could you hit your button then, please, for a request? Thank you.
I don't have to sit, I remember that. Thank
No,
you so much.
and I'm just going to ask you once again, please proceed.
I'm just pulling my notes. It came on me very fast. If you could just give me 1 second and I will pull it out as soon as possible.
I have a copy, a hard copy if you want it.
Sorry, I have lost my,
There you go.
I have it now, I think.
You have it now? Okay.
Um,
Please proceed.
I'm pulling it up. It's taking its time because of,
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I've got it. Thank you so much.
Could you raise your microphone up just so we
Thank
can
you.
all hear you?
I'd like to stand if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Mr. Chair, I rise on this speaking opportunity today as a voice for my residents and acknowledge that they're all affected by what is happening. Events unfolding since October 7th in the Middle East have far-reaching effects, and we are all hearing about it. Earlier on Monday night, Pickering, City of Pickering and Mayor Ash passed a motion unanimously because the loss of lives in Gaza is deeply tragic and heartbreaking consequences on the ongoing conflict, resulting in immense suffering of innocent civilians. Each life lost represents a human tragedy that cannot be understated or ignored. Mr. Chair, I condemn what happened on October 7th, and it was an act of terrorism. It is crucial to recognize and mourn the lives lost on all sides of the conflict, including both Palestinian and Israel. The loss of any life is a stark reminder of devastating impact of the conflict on families, communities, and the region as a whole. Mr. Chair, it's a relief to see a temporary ceasefire and the release of hostages. I hope and pray to witness an effort by all parties involved to prioritize the protection of civilians, adhere to international humanitarian law, and to work towards sustainable peace. Beyond an immediate halt to all hostilities, there is a pressing need for long-term solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict, ensuring the safety and security of all individuals in that region. Mr. Chair, in conversations with Muslims and Jewish communities over the recent weeks, I've heard their worries, their fears. People are deeply grieving and feeling unsafe right now. I've listened to stories of individuals sharing their concerns for loved ones coming back home or living back home. It is crucial to choose compassion. Violence is never the answer. I believe peace can only come through the immediate and unconditional return of all hostages and a complete ceasefire, and has been called by humanitarian organizations, including United Nations. Every life lost
is a profound tragedy, and that emphasizes the urgency of finding a comprehensive and equitable solution to end the cycle of violence, allowing both Palestinians and Israelis to live in peace, security, and dignity. Mr. Chair, in challenging times, our common bond is often tested. It remains a fact that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia exists. People fear being targeted for who they are and what they believe in. Any assault on freedom of individual practicing their faith or religion is not welcome. Hate has no place here. I will always denounce terrorism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and hate in all its forms. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I don't know how many minutes I have. I'll let you
Make
go.
it brief, please.
After my passionate chat here, I'd also like to say that we talk about homelessness, and that's very important. I'm coming to my point. This is my 4th annual toy and winter clothing drive at Candlewood Church. I invite all individuals of our members as regional counselors on December 3rd between 12 and 2 to please bring an unwrapped brand new toy or slightly used winter clothing. That particular food bank serves over 200 families that are in need. I need your help if you can. Bring an unwrapped toy or slightly used winter clothing. It would be a personal favor to me, and I'd be happy to return it in advance or later. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements from members of council? Being none, Mayor Rash, do you have some confirming bylaws, sir?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your successful chairmanship.
Thank you, sir.
I also want to acknowledge, on behalf of Councillor Garot's wife, Robin, that December 1st is only 2 days away, and the mustache can come off.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought it was just new news to him. It's just coming across the wire. He was bracing himself there for a
Yes.
moment, Mayor Rash.
It's moved by myself and second by Councillor Barton that bylaw is number 66, 2023 to 68, 2023, inclusive be passed, dated this day, 29th day of November, 2023.
Bylaws have been moved and seconded. Any opposition? Seeing none, that moves forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bylaw moved by myself, second by Councillor Barton. Bylaw number 69, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Regional Municipality of Durham at their meeting held today, the 29th of November, 2023, be passed.
It's been moved and seconded. Any opposition? Seeing none, that passes. Move to adjourn, moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Any opposition? Seeing none. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to serve in this role today. I appreciate it. The best of the rest of the day to you. Thank you.